Hello everyone, I'm Charlie Dawn and welcome to my library. Today's video is the top 10 books I want to read in 2021. So I don't know when I'll read them, but at some point I would like to have read all of these books by the end of the year. Some of them are new to me, like I've never heard of them before, and some of them are ones that I have had on my list, like my TBR, for a long time, like years. So I'm doing it to hold myself accountable so that I can look back and say, did I read those? But at the same time, who cares? The first book on the list I'm actually currently reading, so off to a good start, and that is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. The Night Circus is one of those books where people don't tell you what it's about because everything is a spoiler, and I can see that now reading it. I think I'm about halfway through and I still don't know what it's about, really. All you can really say is that there is a circus that comes at night and the story kind of revolves around that, but you get to know the lives of pretty much everyone in the circus and some people from not in the circus, and from people outside of the circus, which just sounds like the world, doesn't it? If you're in or out the circus, that's kind of everyone. There's magic involved, there is whimsy involved. It's just very atmospheric and you feel like you really are at the circus. It makes me question how Erin Morgenstern got these ideas because they're very, very unusual. In a good way, obviously. I mean, like, how did she come up with this stuff? So I'm excited to see how it ends, or like, I've not even really got to like the plot point, like the plot twist. So off to a good start because I'm halfway through it, so half a tick off my list. And that one had been on my list for a long time, like ever since I started watching videos on BookTube, which was a few years ago. And I was like, oh, why do people love this book so much? They can't tell me anything about it. They'd just be like, it's about a night circus. And I was like, well, yes, that much I have gathered. But now I understand you can't really tell them anything because it's a spoiler. The next one is My Lady Jane by the Lady Janies. And this one is a weird one because it's like satire, or it's historical fiction, but it's like heavy on the fiction. I think I read like a sample part of it and it was like she marries a horse. Have I got that wrong? But it's like the Lady Jane, whoever that is. There's a whole series of them. There's like My Lady Jane, then there's My Calamity Jane, and I don't know the other one, My Fair Lady Jane? Unsure. But they're all by these three women. I should have looked up their names. Lady Janies is what they go by anyway. I know that it's just historical and very fictional and quite funny, which I need. I've not read a funny book in a long time. I need a bit of humour. Can't take all these tragedies. I'm planning to read that in February though. It's on the brain to read it in February. This one has been on my list since I was like a child. His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. I think I'm like more inclined to read it now because I know I can watch a series afterwards. I can watch it on TV afterwards. And I've not watched the series because I know I should read the book first. And my friend Kaylin is obsessed with the books and she would be very happy if I read them. So I'm going to read them. Can you remember that film, The Golden Compass, when we were kids and it ended on a cliffhanger, as it does, and then they never made another one, and it had, what's her name in? Nicole Kidman? Had an array of famous people, I remember. Or was it just her? I remember not really knowing what was going on and like somebody slammed a window on her fingers and then a monkey was like, ah! I guess I didn't really get the plot back then, but I will now. The next one is a brand new one. Literally my friend Maisie recommended it to me the other day. And that is The Woman in the Window by AJ Finn. It's about a woman who has, I always say this one wrong, orangophobia? No. The one where you are scared to leave the house, orangophobia. It's not orangophobia, anorangophobia. Ricky, anorangophobia. Angaranga? Okay. Alright, thank you. We don't know. There's a woman who is scared to leave her house. She has a phobia of not being able to go out. And that's all I know. But my friend raved about it so hard that I'm gonna read it. We were talking about books that we'd read, and she'd read a book that I really loved, and then she was going to read another book that I really loved, so I felt like maybe we have similar tastes, so I'm going to trust her on this one. The next one is Beartown by Fredrik Backman. I had never heard of this one, but it was in A Dash of Ash's top 10 books of 2020, I think, or one of her last like Christmas videos. I think it was in her top 10. And at first I was like, oh no, not for me. It's about hockey. Like a town that's obsessed with their hockey team. But then apparently something else happens, and then like turmoil. The town is flushed into turmoil. Can you be flushed into turmoil? I'm flushing them. And she said it made her like really think about the world, and I thought, oh, okay. A book about hockey that makes you question the world. So just that made me really intrigued. This year I just really like to read some books that are just more than the story. Like I want a book like Beartown that has the storyline, and it's about hockey and this hockey team, but it's so much more than that, and the hockey team is almost like a metaphor for something else. I just want something deep and meaningful, but also something light and fluffy. So then we have Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo, and I have another one of her books actually. I'm like planning to read it really soon. It's The Poet X. And I think this one is also like a book in verse, like occasionally there's poems in it. I think I've heard that. But it's about these two girls who don't know that they are sisters because their dad has like a double life, and they find out that they're sisters when he dies in a plane crash, and then they find out because they've both been told their dad's died, and they meet. And that's all I know, but I think, wow, imagine that. If you found out you had a sister. I think they're pretty much the same age as well. And one lives in New York and the other one lives in the Dominican Republic. So very different backgrounds, very different cultures. And yet you have this sister that you're like, whoa, you might be very different. You might be exactly the same. You don't know. Intrigued. But I'm really excited about the poetry because I want to read more poems this year, more poetry anthologies as well. So, side note, I'll put her other book onto this little section too. 2 books in one. Ooh. This next one has been on my TBR for so many years, and I don't know why I haven't read it because it seems so right up my street. It's The Archived by V.E. Schwab, and I love a bit of V.E. Schwab, apart from that one that I didn't like, but other than that, I think she's great, so what am I doing? As far as I know, The Archived is about... Archived I've written, so I hope that's right. It's about a world where when you die, your life is put into a book. Do you know, I don't know much about this one, but it's V.E. Schwab, and I think it's a series, and what else could I ask for, to be honest? With this next one, it's also that it's not just the book, it's the genre. And I don't know if this is a genre. It's not a genre, really. I just have this real urge at the minute to read books set in boarding schools. I never went to a boarding school, never wanted to go to a boarding school. I don't think they're that, like, interesting really in real life, but I mean, in a book, honey, I like that stuff. Like magic boarding schools, spy boarding schools, regular boarding schools, I want it all. So this next one is The Divines by Ellie Eaton, and it doesn't come out for a while. Either, do you know, it might come out in a few weeks or like a week or 2, but that's still a while away. I can't have it just now. It's dual timeline. Why do I keep doing this? It's dual timeline. When they went to school when they were teenagers to now they're like much older, and something happened at the boarding school that's like followed them through their lives. And that was all I needed to hear, and I was like, honey, put it on the list. Also the cover of that book looks so good. I was gonna get it on maybe Audible or Kindle, but I might just get the actual book to be like, because I mean you can't really, hang on, I can tilt you. Ooh, yeah, my shelves do go quite, I wish you could see this part of my shelves because they're the best parts, but to see me, I guess, which is the main event. Yeah, so The Divines, I want to read that because I just think, what the hell happened? I don't know if it's like fantasy, I don't know if it was like a magic thing, I don't know if it was like a traumatic, like real life event that could happen in real life. I don't know, I don't care because I'm going to read it because it's set in a boarding school. And the next one is also set in a boarding school. And it's All These Beautiful Strangers. And to be quite honest with you, the reason I have this on the list is because the main character is called Charlie and she's a girl. Like, when does that happen? I mean, her real name's Charlotte, which I can forgive her for that. She can't help that. I've not read a book with the main character who's female called Charlie in a long time. And the last time I did, I don't know what it was, but it was shit. And I was like, you Scully my name. Scully? It's not Scully, is it? Sully. Well, she sullied it. I don't remember what book that was, but I didn't enjoy it. So fingers crossed for this one. Oh, let me tell you what it's about, hang on. It's about a girl called Charlie, and that's all you need to know. She goes to boarding school because when she's like 6, her mum goes missing and she gets sent off to boarding school. And there's a secret society. I don't know much else, but I don't need to know anything more. Boarding school, mystery about a mum going missing. Secret society. Is she a spy? Oh my god, if she's a spy, I'll lose my mind. I always wanted to be a spy when I was growing up because I did. I think probably Spy Kids had a lot to play in that, like the film. And then I think I stopped wanting to be a spy when I realised you'd have to do a lot of things in the dark, and I'm really scared of the dark. So, like for my birthday and stuff, I'd ask for spy gear, and I actually got some really good spy gear one year. It must have been at the time Spy Kids was like booming, because who sells spy gear in like the Argos catalogue? It was this like sash, and it had all these things on it, and it was like a listening device. There was one of these things, it was like a webcam, and then if you walked past it an alarm would go off. I used that to try and see if the tooth fairy was real, because I was like, well, if the tooth fairy goes past it, I'll hear the alarm and I'll catch her in the act. But then my mum set the alarm off and I was like, oh, it's just my mum, it's not the tooth fairy, back to sleep. I also used to use it to like listen on the walls to people's conversations, which was very rude. But you know, I was a spy. I had things to know. Back to the matter at hand. The last one on the list is also more of like a genre in general, and that is poetry. I write poetry, and my aim this year is to actually publish an anthology, or at least finish it. Let's just go with finish it for this year. I don't want to aim too high. Like in my head I'll secretly aim high, but saying out loud, who wants to jinx things? But specifically Homebody by Ruby Kaur. I have her other one on, oh, there. And I did like it a lot, yeah. I do kind of get that whole, oh, it's like Instagram poetry. I saw this post and it was somebody was writing their partner's sleep talking as Ruby Kaur poetry, and it was like, oh no, the ship, we drown. I could do that with my boyfriend because he talks gibberish in his sleep. We call it visioning because he will like see it in his head, then he'll say it out loud. So like the other night, he was falling asleep and I was like, good night, and he went, good night, Pep. And I was like, who? And he was like, Giuseppe. And he was talking to a football manager, saying good night to him. And then the night previous to that, he had said, how much time do we have? And I said, until what? And he said, until the Hunger Games begin. So I could do that. Maybe that'll be my poetry anthology, my boyfriend's sleep talking. But Homebody seems to be quite popular. I'm not like obsessed with Ruby Kaur's poetry. I've just kind of put that one on as like a, this is one I want to read, but generally more poetry books. I hope that was 10 because I don't think I probably kept 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are my top 10 books I want to read in 2021. So I'm giving myself 12 months to do it. I don't think that's unreasonable. And those are books that I need to be ticking off because I think they are books that I will love. I really think they are. Sometimes you read a book and you know you're not going to love it. You think, oh, I'll be all right. Like a fun little contemporary, you might think, 3 stars, get on my shelves. But these, I have high hopes. I know the Night Circus won't let me down, so that's a good start. I'm so glad. You know when you start the year with a bad book? No. Anyway, If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more from this channel, give it a subscribe, and I'll see you next time in my library. Okay, let's refresh the brain.